Good evening, everyone. I'm Yulia Stone, President of the Conway Historical Society, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all. And I'm so pleased to see there's so much interest. And somebody tells me we should have charged for it. Before the introduction, a little bit of business. So our display panels with our exhibit, The Great Calamity, are down for tonight, but they're coming back up. So please stop by and visit us during the Festival of the Hills. We'll be open 10 to 4, and the exhibit will be up, and you'll be able to see it. In the meantime, after the talk, while you're enjoying refreshments, please view what we have on display here. These two glass cases have information about insurance business in Conway from early time to later. And the contents of these two cases is relatively new too. The flag mills and the fire department. And speaking of the fire department, we could use some help. There's a picture I have right here from 1967, was taken at the Festival of the Hills. A copy of it is also on the wall over there, right next to the camera person, and next to Sarah. So we've been able to identify almost everybody in this picture. And our thanks go to Bill Burnett and Howard Boyden and Bob Baker and Jenny Kaliski and Dottie Harris. But there's still one or two people who's not identified, and there's maybe one or two people about whom we have ambiguity or disagreements about the identity. If you have a chance after the talk, take a look at it and help us. I have paper hanging on the wall to write down the missing names, or just let me know who you think they are. And also, there's we recently got a gift of this split board that represents the schedule of the fire department, and so the name of the fireman is there. We don't know the date for it. We're not sure how to date it, but we're thinking if you guys, somebody who knows the history really well, read the names that are there and tell me about what year all these people worked together or served together as firemen. I think that would be the clue for us to figure out what the date is. So I would really appreciate if somebody helped me date this item. All right. Our next event is Howland Cemetery Tour. We'll hold it the Saturday before Festival.
Wow, Howard.
The Saturday before Festival of the Hills from I think 2 to 4. Yes. And we'll make it a little shorter and tighter than last time, so we don't keep you there till dark. All right. So as always, please sign our guest book on the way out, because we would love to know how many people visit. So, and our memberships are still available. If you're not a member, you're welcome to join. Single membership is only $10, and the family membership is $18. Before it goes up. And the last before the introduction, I'll call for volunteers. We always need help, mainly with research right now. So you don't need to join or be a trustee. We have wonderful research opportunities. If you'd like to be an investigator, because we have people and places to track down, following clues, and it takes a long time. You may need to contact a library or an archive and wait for a response and add that clue to the puzzle. So it would be Very, very helpful. Or maybe track down people or cross-reference names. I try to ID photos. Okay, this is it. And now I'm going to ask Mary Irwin to introduce our speaker.
I have such an easy task tonight. Hands up, is there anybody who doesn't know or So it is my honor to introduce Helen Baker and Howard, it was Howard's idea to have this conversation, and I think it's going to be a wonderful one. Yes, you can punish me later. So I just have like a couple of very special things to say, just based on what I know about Helen. So I found out that Helen got married in 1972, and 3 months later she was working in the store. She's still in the store.
She's still married too.
Can I suggest that the speakers speak loudly, because
Sure.
we
Okay. I'll work harder. I just have a couple of
especially us 82-year-olds.
Okay. You should come over closer. So Helen was the first female firefighter in Conway, and we have a picture of her over there in the middle case. I think that's behind your mom, actually.
No, it's Maureen Chase.
Oh, Maureen Chase. Yes.
Maureen Chase with me.
Yes. And you know, Helen is legendary for her hospitality, not just her baking. She has been known to open the store really early when we have a big fire, when we have a big storm and the highway department is out all night. She will make sure they are fed and they have enough coffee to keep going. Likewise, she will sometimes stay late for the same reason. She has mentored a lot of young women in town, giving them their first job and teaching them some skills that they can go on and use later in life. And she has also been known to be thoughtful about people who are sick in town, and she will send Bob out with a hot plate to deliver to some shut-ins. I know this for a fact. And so that's all I'm going to say, because I know you're going to bring a lot more out. And Howard Boyden, 8th-generation farmer, Boesco man, some people know him that way. And most of all, maple syrup producer, champion maple syrup producer, and current or former president of the North American Maple Syrup Producers, right?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
Yes, we all love maple syrup. Ready?
So we're ready.
You're ready.
We're ready.
Okay.
Yes.
So, yes, this interview was actually my brainchild, and Helen just learned that a few minutes ago, so she'll get even with me later on. Basically, what brought it to my mind was the presentation that Bill Burnett and Deb Craven and I did some time ago on maple sugaring in Conway. Everybody loves maple sugaring. It happens once a year, and they want to see it start because they know that winter's over and you got one foot in the door of spring, and they even more want to see it end because they can go rake the lawn and summer's just around the corner. But I was thinking about, you know, there's an awful lot in Conway that people just take for granted. And we really should give some credit to that. And one place that jumped into my mind right off is where I go to get chainsaw gas on a Sunday morning, or a quart of oil when I need it and don't want to drive to Greenfield, and that kind of stuff. You know, just a local convenience store that is absolutely local and locally owned and there for us 7 days a week, 364 sometimes and a half days a year. So. And we tend to take these things for granted. So it was actually my idea that we do an interview with Helen, the owner proprietor of Baker's Country Store here in Conway. So the way I envision this to go is I'm going to ask Helen a few questions, and then it's kind of going to turn into more of a conversation. And when it wraps up, Then we'll have time for some of your stories and questions and whatnot, but I would appreciate it if you'd kind of let me go through the way I laid it out, because I did give Helen a cheat sheet, and I have to tell you, Helen and I have been very dear, very close friends a long, long time, and she wouldn't have done this for just anybody, and I really, really appreciate this, Helen. I really do. So let's start right out for those who don't know. Have you lived in Conway all your life, Helen?
I lived in Conway all my life. I lived 2 houses up from the post office where Bruce and Jeannie Jonette live now. I lived there till I got married. Then after I got married, I lived in the apartment next door until I decided that was not the place to live anymore.
All right, and when did your parents buy the store? I know that before it was Peabody's, and then it was Flossie's Luncheonette, maybe somebody in between there. What year did your mom and dad actually buy the store?
My mom and dad actually bought the store in September of 1972 from Florence Burnett, who had owned it from 1958 to 1972.
And it was a luncheonette and gas
Yes.
station at the time.
At the time,
Yep.
correct.
Yep.
It's always been the Sunoco gas station for as long as I can remember.
Do you remember, or do you know how your parents came about the decision to buy the store?
That's one question I can't answer. I have no idea, except my mother always loved to cook.
Yeah, it
That-
was always
Yeah.
incredible to us that all of a sudden Jim and Marie Weeks, who I had known because of all the gaggle of children they had that were around my age, above and below, and all of a sudden they were opening the luncheonette, and Flossie was selling it to them, and it was going to be Weeks's luncheonette, and I just wondered what exactly.
I have no idea what
Brought them to
inspired
the
her to do
idea.
it, except
Okay.
she's probably sick of being at home with 8 siblings.
Well, that was the next thing. How many siblings in your family? 8 total.
8 total,
8 total, and you are where in line?
next to the oldest.
Yeah, yeah, okay. When did you start working for your parents at the store?
In 1972, later that fall, I started working for them.
Shortly after they opened.
Shortly after they opened it. Mom said she needed help.
Yeah. Did you ever have another full-time job?
No, I had a couple of part-time jobs. I worked for a while when I was younger in Greenfield, where Home Depot is now. It was Richard's department store. And then from there, I worked the night shift until my husband didn't like it at the pickle shop. And then I always used to, in the springtime, do maple sugaring for
That's
the
right.
Boydens. I worked for Howard's dad, Ray.
Yeah.
And I even made candy back in the late 70s, early 80s.
With my mother, absolutely.
With your mom.
Yeah.
She was the best. She taught me. So those are the only things I did before I landed in the store with my mother.
So let's talk about that just a little bit. When your mom and dad bought the store, they did try and raise it a little bit, make it a little bit nicer than it was when Flossie owned it. Flossie was very along in years and couldn't take care of things as well as most people would like to take care of things, and it had run down considerable. And Jim and Marie did a pretty amazing job of making the place invitable for people. And they quickly got a breakfast crowd and a lunch crowd and sometimes a mid-afternoon coffee crowd. But I remember in 1975 when I started working for OESCO, it was a great place to stop and have my morning coffee on the way to work, depending on when you stopped. Because Jim would leave at 5 in the morning to go pick up papers in South Deerfield. And he'd start the coffee and he'd come back, open the doors for us a little before 6. And the coffee were these old aluminum drip coffee pots. And if you got there a little early before it had all gone through, he'd still draw you a cup, and wow,
It woke you up.
it would pop your eyes open.
It always woke you up.
But if you got there a little late after he'd served 5 or 6 of those cups, what was left in there was kind of like the dishwater. So one thing, after we accused Jim of using fresh socks in it every morning or whatever, finally Marie bought a really good coffee maker, and the coffee at Baker's has been stable and steady and delicious ever since. But that was some of the struggles that Jim and Marie had just getting started.
And she made my husband put an automatic timer. So my mother always set the coffee pot up in the evening, and it was on a timer. So that's why you got your coffee
Right.
steady and not like either road tar or socks or
Yeah.
the bottom of the barrel.
So what I found, along with most of the others, that about 7:15 was the time to go in and get your first cup. Because at 7:30, if you look down the street, Helen's mom, Marie, was coming up the sidewalk with 2 Ziploc bags swinging in one hand and her pocketbook in the other hand. And she was coming to work with 2 dozen freshly made donuts that she had made in her kitchen at home. And that was the time to get them.
Yep.
And she would come in and open the bag, and we would all get our fresh donuts. And she also made some of the best chocolate and pumpkin whoopie pies you could ever imagine. My father gave Marie the name Grumpy.
Yep.
She was anything but grumpy, and I think that's why he called her Grumpy. She was one of the nicest, most wonderful ladies you'd ever hope to know. And so her whoopie pies, we nicknamed them Grumpy Cakes, and as long as Weeks's had the store, we would go in at 10 o'clock at coffee time and grab a Grumpy Cake to have at coffee time. So that was Weeks's, and it did bring in the local crowds, and it became nicknamed Weeks's Wind Tunnel because you got a lot of news there. Sometimes it was accurate, sometimes not so much. Enough with that story. Okay, now we're going to bring it up to Helen's time. I'm going to just throw in a little personal question. She can answer it if she wants to or not. Did you meet your husband, Bob, while working at the store?
No.
Okay. And are you going to leave it at that, or do you have a story for us?
I met him on the Shelburne Falls Road, walking with my girlfriend Kathy, and him and John Herrick, who he always hung out with, were coming down the road in his Chevelle, and John Herrick told him, "You have to stop. I have to introduce you to her. You have to meet her." And that's how we met.
How about that, huh? Isn't that great? What year did you and Bob buy the store?
In 1985.
1985, the same year that I went to work for Owesco.
Yep.
Or I actually left Owesco after 10 years. So you worked for your mom pretty much full time,
Right.
and then fit in other jobs around it. Okay. Do you do many things differently at the store now than your parents did?
No, probably not. I mean, well, it's a different crowd now, I mean.
Yep.
And maybe I do it different because, my father, I always spoil all the kids.
Yes.
As you know, your grandchildren. I love all the children when
Yes,
they
she
come.
does.
So that's one thing I do different. I look forward to all the children
And you do
coming
get
every day, and I make different things from my mom, but my mom was where I learned the pies.
Yeah. You do get out the paintbrush a little more often than Jim and Marie did.
Yeah. No, I make Bob do that.
So that brings me to my next comment here is over the years you've made several rather substantial investments/improvements to the property, all while keeping the doors open and serving the customers.
Yep. The first thing we did after we bought it was we took out, there used to be like 3 little windows that faced the parking lot by the picnic table. We took all those out and put the picture window in and the other windows, but the major renovation we did, and Tony Colcott was wonderful because he made like this ramp so we could keep the store open because we put a foundation under the store. after we bought it, because it was only a stone like foundation, and on the side facing the Hawks' house is what I call it. Dick Stallings had to do that part with bricks, but we never closed the whole time they did that. And then we also had Bud Ware put a new roof on, and we never closed. And then my daughter, who owns her own company, Integrity, she her company came in, and we never closed, and we had the whole store sided. And we never closed, and we did all that. And then our last disaster last year with the rainstorm, we were fortunate enough, except for maybe a half a dozen days, to stay open, but we had to close once we got the new septic system, and Kenny and Chris had to pipe it all from into the building. We couldn't be open and stuff. And we stayed open too. Back in 2007, the gas tanks that are under the ground, and back then they happened to be like 2 tanks under the ground. One morning I discovered one had leaked. So of course I called the fire chief right off. And then I called the conservation committee next, because living on the river, you got to cover all your steps. And so we were able to stay open, but we had to dig all the ground, which Tony did that, and Sandries took it out and then replaced it with a double wall 2-compartment tank. So we've done all that since we've been there.
And literally, when Tony was doing the foundation, you had to walk the plank to get into the store, but you could do that.
But all the men still walked the plank. They were thankful that they could still come in and have their breakfast.
So you and Bob have both been involved in town affairs, as well as running the business and raising 2 kids in Conway.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Some days, no. It's the hardest part. Sometimes was hard because back when I first owned the store, I did have a red phone in the store. And with him being a fire chief, I had to answer the phone, and if there was a call, and that's back when we had the siren on the hill, I had to make sure. And then I used to, until, thank God, dispatch came, I used to give out all the burning permits during burning season. And then, thank God for my mother, until she left in '85, because after that I did find several young girls to help, because I used to always make sure both of my kids went to their sports, played their sports, and Mom was there to watch their games. And then many times our dinners on holidays would be interrupted, as the kids would say, for a call. But nope.
For those who don't know what it is, a red phone is the fire phone, and there were about 4 or 5 of them at different people's houses in town. Most people were officers on the fire department, as well as Helen's store. And when that phone rang, everybody shut up, and Helen answered the phone, and then she had a switch that would blow the siren that was on top of the hill, and that would wake the rest of us up to get to the station and see what was written on the chalkboard as to where to go for the fire. So things have changed some since then, but it gave us daytime coverage 7 days a week by having it at her store. Okay, you pretty much hit this in your last comments, but what have been the challenges of owning a small business in a small town on a postage stamp property on the banks of the South River?
Making sure nothing goes into the river, but also parking lots of times, all you know, can be a problem. But I always say, come, park somewhere, anywhere. But parking is minimal, but you know, and the river is what you always have to just, today especially in this world.
Yes, especially. So, like Jean and I, you've had the unfortunate opportunity to see how the people in this town can come together in the face of personal disaster. And I'm referring to the recent washout and public response to that event that very well could have put you out of business.
Yes, like Bob and I both, we can't thank, I couldn't realize how much the community and the town and everybody really came together. We were so grateful for it, because I really, really thought I was done. that I was going to close forever because of the costs and the different estimates I got to get everything back up and running. But everybody was great. My children and the rest of the family were great when they put an event together to raise money out at the Sportsman's Club, and the overwhelming response of how my niece and nephew went out and got all these raffles from all the other community businesses. It was just overwhelming because I've always been a giver, not a taker. So we both found it very hard to take, but we really, really deeply have appreciated it.
It's one of the most humbling things if you haven't been on that side. But to that, when we had our sugar house fire, the very next morning, who was there with the coffee? Helen. Who was there with lunch for 4 days for the volunteers, putting that place back together and putting me back in business? Helen. And did I get a bill? Never. Okay, so when you're on the giving side, most of the time, you can take a little comfort when you do have to be on the receiving side.
Yep, you're right. We've both been there together.
As the owner of another small business in town, I know the importance of walking that fine line between the political extremes and trying not to lose half of your customers because you don't necessarily agree with them on social issues.
And how I address that is, I bring them their coffee, I bring them their food, and I go back to the kitchen and bake. Because I never get in the middle of politics. Politics, I don't care, and I let them discuss it and either get mad at each other, solve the matter, get up, walk out, or be happy. I never get involved. I learned that a long time ago.
Yep. And you keep the political signs off your property
Yep.
because your
And
customers...
never put political signs. People have asked, and I said, no, sorry, but...
Yep. So Baker's store, like the Conway Inn, has been a hub for sharing information, however factual or not it is. I've often referred to the store now as Conway Dispatch. I'm sure you have heard many unsubstantiated stories. Any you'd like to share?
Yeah, the biggest story is they always come to me and, is the dump open?
Conway Dispatch.
Yeah. Or, where's the police chief? Where's the fire chief? Where is Kenny and Chris we met? I go, wait a minute, they'll be here at 7:30. But no, there's some stories I won't share.
Where else can you find the police chief, fire chief, all the local contractors in one place, having breakfast and solving the problems of the world, which nobody appreciates the fact that they do that. You've been a spectator to this for so many years. It certainly gives you a good look into the fabric of this community.
They call me the wind tunnel, but I say, hey, they all come in and they're solving everybody's problems, and their own too. But I'll tell you what, COVID was the hardest time. The hardest time in all the years I have been there. And it was even hard for the men. Not being able, the 45 minutes that most of them might spend a morning or less, not being able to come in that whole time. I mean, they all came. I was very fortunate to be able to stay open, but they all came and got it and left. But I'll tell you, it was the hardest time of my life, not having the customers to be able to come in and stay. Because I'm like a clock. I know what time he's going to come. I know what time you might show up. And it was very hard. So I'm so glad for my customers every day.
So last question that I have, and then we can kind of open it up. I see the sign in the window, the store is for sale. 2 questions. One is, what will you do with yourself when and if it does sell? And the second question to all of us is are we going to have a place like Baker's store in Conway anymore?
Well, the first answer to Howard's question is I hope to spend more time with my family, more time in my house. And no, I've been asked this so many times, I'll tell you now, I'm not moving out of Conway. I'm just going to 112 Elm Street because I really don't live at 101 River Street. I just spend a lot of time there. So I hope, and maybe do a little traveling is what I do when it happens. My other hope, I really hope that I could find some young couple or something that would buy it and enjoy it as much as I have. Hopefully keep it for the community. I mean, you always expect changes in life, but I hope it stays, because I even have customers that come in this nice weather all the way from Connecticut because they love it, because they can sit in the store and everybody is open to them and talk to them, ask them who they are, where they're from, and blah, you know, and they tell me they don't have that anywhere else. Most places are just drive through and drive on. So that's what I hope somebody will enjoy it as much as I have, and enjoyed everybody. And my hardest thing when I do sell, I'll tell all of you, is not seeing all of you. Yeah, and not seeing my children, because I've had so many young girls that have worked for me through high school, through college, got married, had a baby, and now I'm seeing their children grow. I'm watching his grandchildren grow, and it's just so much fun.
Helen, you have a pool. I'll be over.
Okay, you come anytime. You might not want to right now, though. It's getting a little cool.
A lot of young people, girls and boys in Conway, have learned how to count change at Helen's store.
Yes, because unfortunately, they've all that have come to work for me in the 53 years of theirs said, "This register won't tell me what to give back." I said, no, your brain is going to tell you what to give back, because what if the power goes off? I'm not telling you the machine doesn't do it, but I'm never showing you. And I never have. No, no. So, yeah. And now I have kids from the grammar school. Little 6th grade girls have been coming in. "Can we do money with you?" I said, yeah, stand here. Tell me, I told you how much you owe me. Now count it out. So, yeah. So, yep.
So thanks for listening, and thanks for thinking about the things that we take for granted on a daily basis. And thank you, Helen, for being there for all of us.
Well, thank you, Howard. You've been with me forever. And everybody in the past, or a lot of customers, so I did my homework after Howard gave me this cheat sheet. And I went to Phyllis Stacy, who's going to be 97 years old the end of this month, and I figured she'd be the best person to ask. They wanted to know the different people like in the store. So Mr. Peabody, who I have a picture of him on my wall in the store, started back in the 40s. Somebody thinks maybe late 30s. I'm not sure. She told me 40s, and she told me that half of the store actually came up from down off of 116 by Walt Goodrich's driveway. It was like an old, I don't know, shop or something, and it came up and was added on. And they said he was there until 1953, and then the people, Roland and Florence Wells, bought it in 53, but they were there for a short time. They were only there till the 54. And then the Hawkses, which was Phyllis and her husband, were there from 54 to 58, and then in 1958 is when Florence Burnett bought it, and then of course my mom, Jim and Marie, bought it from Florence in 72. So that's the different people that had been there. So, but that's what I found out, and thanks to Phyllis, at 97 years old is still as sharp as a tack.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So, but that's, I thank everybody, and that's the story, and I just pray I find somebody that really will keep it for all of you, so we all, even myself, have it, because, you know.
Do we have any questions for Helen, or are there any stories that people have that they'd like to share about the store?
Well, I've been just
Jeff?
itching to ask this one. Okay, I just have to bring it up because that the glass candy case is like I mean, we think of the whole store, but that was our focus when it was out in the bag.
Right.
And I grew up, of course, getting little paper bags full of and candy.
And I hate it waiting on your kids because it took you so long
Yeah,
to
oh,
spend
yeah.
50 cents.
I mean, and I could go on and on about the types of candy
Yeah.
and.
No, that was originally there with Mr. Peabody.
Okay.
But it was in 2 pieces. And then they eventually took and put it together, and you remember when it was down in the dining room area,
Yeah.
but then we brought it up to the register area. But it is actually 2 pieces,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, I mean, that's.
Yeah, when we could fill a bag for 50 cents. Now forget it.
I do have a story about when Jim and Marie owned the store. There were a lot of people that would hang out right until closing time, and I'm not going to say names, but a lot of you may know him. One gentleman was sitting in next to the soda cooler quietly, and Jim decided it was time to go home, and he shut the lights off and locked the door. And before he even got in his truck to go home, a chair came out through the window, and that gentleman who thought he was going to be locked in all night long had let himself out. And that may be why you took out the 3 windows and put the picture in there.
There you go.
Because it was one of those 3 windows that had the chair pitched through it, and out he came. And he was an older gent in Conway, and he apparently had maybe fallen dozed off or whatever, but Jim didn't. He didn't take inventory before he left.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat what everyone knows, that if you can't find it at Baker's, you don't need it. But I'm looking at the transition, and younger people, however altruistic they might be, their bank accounts aren't all that robust. And we recently came back from a trip and stopped by the Creamery on Route 9, which is a cooperative. And apparently, I'm not sure about this, but when the people that used to own it tried to sell it, they had a rough time.
Yes.
And what they did up there is to form a cooperative where several people brought their financial resources together to make it happen. And if you haven't been up there recently, the Creamery on Route 9 is really impressive. And I don't know what the transition's going to be for Helen here, but this town thinks so highly of Baker's store, at least I do, along with Natural Roots and the Conway. And this is the roots of Conway. And I don't think I or many other people would let this place, go under, financially go under. I really think that they would come forward and form a cooperative, if that's what they need to do, to keep this place where, if you can't find it, you don't need it, kind of store going.
No, I send them to Wesco when they ask me for tools.
Yeah, just to add to that is Elmer's in Ashfield, they just did the same thing there too.
Yeah,
And so they would be good people to talk to.
exactly.
About how they did.
Absolutely.
I think that's a
Yeah.
good path to follow, given the financial dispositions of the various.
Now I can go back to work for
and
Howard.
cooperative,
I can go back
makes a lot of
sugaring with
sense to
Howard. I
me.
can help Jeannie make candy.
That's a good idea.
Thank
So-
you.
So before Helen became Helen Baker, when she was working with my dad sugaring, she was a couple years older than me, but all 5'2" of her could carry 2 pails of sap and attempt to dump it into the sap tank and wear half of it and get half of it in.
Yep, I did.
Did we have fun?
How about,
Gathering
yeah.
sap.
We
We
had-
really did.
We had so much fun that they have a great big milk tank that somebody has to get in it and clean it.
She fit perfectly.
Yeah, and they weren't going to let me out. And I couldn't climb out on my own.
It was my job to go out and grab Helen by the hands and lift her up out. I might have shut the lid on her.
Yeah, yeah. But we're still friends.
John, did you have a question? Or
Not a question, but I got I got a joke.
Okay, here we go. I'm waiting.
A personal joke.
Okay.
You know what it is? A guy from away shows up at Baker's store. It's probably happened more than once like this, but she told me the story. You know, I don't know exactly why she told me the story the particular day. I went in to buy a pie. Everybody knows that their pies are so wonderful. You know, it's like, well, first of all, I was staying with Bob and Mary Merriam when I was house hunting, and I stopped in at Baker's and got a blueberry pie. And I came back and I said, boy, if that woman was single, she bakes just like she bakes exactly the way my mother did. And it's like, oh, who doesn't want somebody who bakes like their mother did? Well, maybe there's a few people, but anyway, most of us would love to have somebody that bakes like their mother did. But a guy comes in from away, and he asks, because he's from away, and it's your typical convenience store, you know, everything's wrapped up. You got the Hostess cupcakes, and you got the moon pies and that kind of stuff, you know. And, you know, here's all these pies that look homemade somewhere. And he assumes that, you know, that you got them from some bakery someplace, you know. And he says, are these pies any good?
I said, no, they're not any good at all, but ask him, he just bought one. And he buys them all the time.
Your version you told me was, no, they're terrible.
But try one anyway.
She said, I made them. Now, I guess the guy bought a pie that day, I don't know.
Yeah, he
But
did.
whenever I come, not every time, but sometimes when I come in there and I order a pie, I go, are these pies any good?
I have a question about the week store, probably before your time or not. We have a painting on loan there near the entrance on the wall over the bridge model by Maurice Kennedy. So the person, it's pictures of J. Mag's barn. So it came through some hands from the Weeks store. So my question is, did this Weeks store serve as a gallery, or did the artist maybe pay for something with the painting?
If that's a painting and it has Mr. Kennedy's name on it, he always came in the store. He loved my mother and father, and that painting was probably hanging in the store at one time because he gave it to them. That's all. Yes, that's Mr. Kennedy.
Yep.
Used to come to the store. Yes.
I'll tell this story. When I first moved to Conway in 1984, I had a couple of checks left from my old address, and I had forgotten that I closed out that account. So I gave Helen a bump check.
You were new to town.
But I was new to town. But then after Helen spoke to me, we cleared up, and she said, by the way, you gave one to the Girl Scouts too.
Yeah, for those Girl Scout cookies.
I just want to personally thank you for how many Halloweens that my son participated in the town hall. Like, Helen was always there, and it was great.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Howard.
I'm gonna go get it.
I know one thing I need to have you do for everybody. Helen and I were digging through our archives in the basement. And we found a sign that we think that we want to donate to you people. That we find that you may find it really interesting. And it's a two-person sign. One side says one thing, the other side says the other thing. And on the other side from it, it says somebody's gift shop that we don't know where it is or was in Conway. So I'm going to bring this up. It's not the best shape in the world because it's very old.
Oh, you got the sign
So
there?
I want to bring it up and show it to you.
I really think, Jim and I are having a disagreement.
This is just a little bit older than we are, so
tried to keep
Maybe
it
Howard
as
can
best
help
we
me hold
could.
Yep.
But it's two-sided, we thought we'd love to give it to the historical house. Because it would not mean anything to anyone else when they are there.
This is the existing sign. And this evidently hung outside the store, somewhere by the store. And this is what it said on the other side.
And I really believe it's that building that used to be on the bank. Because they used,
So
yeah, but they also sold.
we don't know if she was related to him or what. But it was a sign that hung outside the store. We would like to donate that to this organization to keep that.
That's great. That is cool.
Thank you very much.
Even the splatter
Oh,
on it.
I know what.
I love that.
If any of you guys know the history behind it, or something about Sheila, Peabody, we would love to hear from you.
What about
So let
Phyllis?
us
Would
know.
she maybe?
I don't know, she might, which I will have to ask.
I bet she would. She's
There used to be-
best
There
bet.
used to, where the post office is right now, if you pull into the parking lot, the park, right in front of your cars up on the bank, there was an old building that came down a couple of years ago. And years ago, that used to be an antique shop. And this says it was 100 yards down the road. You know what it said?
On the other
On
side.
the other side, yeah. It says 100 yards.
Yeah, 100 yards down on the left. So I'm almost thinking that maybe it hung, so you were coming down from the firehouse, you could read Peabody's. I mean, going up, you could read Peabody's, you're coming down, you could read Sheila's. We're not correct about it because we don't really know.
Not positive, but that's the only place I could think of was that little, because when I was growing up, it was full of all kinds of knickknacks, junk, antiques, whatever.
Yeah, because there's almost a storefront, like looking.
It was.
It
It
was,
was,
yeah,
yes.
they tore it down, yeah, yeah.
But there's kind of a storefront there now.
Correct, yeah. Nothing there now, because they tore it down.
Yeah, it's gone now.
But even there's a house.
Somebody's house has that storefront in front of it.
That's the one that just up from, right,
Okay, that is up from.
next house up. from the post office right now. There used to be a, what was in the house that I used to, meat market type thing was in it.
It wasn't a general store type thing.
Please enjoy some refreshments and look around for